What would you do if one day you discovered that the children you envied in your friend's arms were your husband's? Imagine years of failed IVF treatments, countless injections, endless prayers, the weight gain, the tears, and then finding out the man you trusted had been giving children to everyone but you. Continue listening, and you'll find out what happened next. Amara Withmore looked like a woman who had it all. She was 28, beautiful, wealthy, and powerful, but happiness, not so much. She lived in a glass mansion in Kensington where the curtains were always drawn back to show off chandeliers and Persian rugs. Rolls Royces purred outside, and her wardrobe was filled with silk gowns and diamonds her husband draped on her without thought. People called her lucky. People whispered she had been chosen. One thing humbled Amara, one gift nature gave to every woman, and with all her wealth and connections, she could not have it. She was young, Nigerian, and had the hips, but it felt like God had forgotten her, like he was punishing her. Doctor after doctor said nothing was wrong. Still, the mansion remained silent. No cry of a child, no laughter to fill the empty halls. Behind the heavy oak doors of her dressing room, Amara's world was needles. Every morning she pulled a small case from the drawer, laid out the syringe, and pressed it against her bruised stomach. The hormone injections had left her body swollen and tender. Her once slim waist thickened, her skin stretched and marked in places that no amount of expensive creams could hide. Her hands shook every time she stuck herself, but she never missed a dose, because one day, she told herself, it would work. It had been 12 years since she married Richard Withmore, 12 years of praying, of waiting, of watching her body betray her month after month. Richard was a man of power, tall, broad, with hair like silver combed back, and eyes so sharp people looked away when he fixed them on you. At 52, he was the kind of man who could make an entire ballroom turn when he walked in. He owned towers across London, shopping districts in Dubai, hotels in New York. He was polished, elegant, and always in control. To the world, he was generous, a patron of charities, a man who loved his African wife deeply. And Amara believed him, even when she saw herself getting bigger in the mirror, even when she heard the whispers at charity galas. The Withmores still have no heir. Even when his mum called her barren, her words always stung. Told you not to marry that foreign thing. Now she's brought shame on our family name. Amara always sat there in their lavish sitting room and remained quiet, but her heart was breaking. But her mother's words always comforted her. Everyone has an opinion, but you don't have to respond to every barking dog. Richard's answer was always the same. He kissed her hand, placed credit cards in her palm, and said, "Don't worry, Amara. You are all I need. Go shopping. Take your friends out. Be happy." So she smiled. She smiled through the endless doctor's visits, the failed IVF cycles, the bruises on her stomach, the nights when she cried into the expensive silk sheets, while Richard snored beside her. Her circle of friends didn't help. They were the wives of Richard's partners and rivals, women with perfect hair, perfect nails, and perfect children. Victoria, with her cold beauty, and 2 blonde boys. Claudia, who always brought her little girl to brunch, laughing as though motherhood was the easiest thing in the world. Anna, whose toddler was already dressed in designer clothes. They drank champagne at Harrods and complained about nannies while Amara sipped quietly, envying the children running between their legs. They envied her handbags, her chauffeur, her trips to Paris. But Amara envied them their motherhood. She would go home from those outings with her heart heavy, her smile aching, her womb empty. "Why don't you just adopt?" Claudia once said carelessly, stirring her tea. Amara's smile never wavered. "Because I want my child," she replied. "Our child. I want to carry my own." What she did not say was that she wanted to silence the whispers, to show the world that she, a black woman, married into this empire, was not barren, that she could bear the Withmore air herself. But London society had no patience. In marble halls and glass penthouses, the whispers grew louder. "What will happen to Richard's empire? Who will inherit? She can't give him a son. She can't give him anything." Some dared to say it to her face, their words dipped in poison. "Such a shame, Amara. You would have made a wonderful mother, if only." And through it all she remained calm, smiling, her head held high, her silk scarves hiding the trembling of her throat. But then came the morning that shattered her. It was a grey day in Chelsea, the sky low and heavy with snow. Amara had just left another appointment, another scan that told her nothing had worked, when she stopped at a cafe for tea. She pulled her coat tighter and stepped inside, the warmth hitting her face. There they were, Claudia and Victoria at the corner table, their children beside them. 2 steaming lattes, laughter, the clink of spoons against porcelain. The boy looked up. 7 years old, perhaps. Sharp grey eyes that seemed to pierce right through her. The exact eyes she saw every night across the dining table. Richard's eyes. Amara froze. Her throat went dry. The boy smiled and her stomach lurched. It was Richard's smile, crooked, knowing, familiar. "Amara!" Claudia waved, bright and cheerful. "Join us for a moment." Amara forced a smile, murmured something about being late and left quickly, her heels striking the floor too loud. Outside the air was icy, but she felt heat flooding her face. She tried to shake it off. She told herself grief was playing tricks. She was desperate. She was imagining things, but it didn't stop. At the Claridge's gala a week later, she saw it again. Richard in a black tuxedo, bow tie crisp, his silver hair gleaming under the chandeliers. Victoria's eldest son ran to him shouting, "Uncle Richie!" Richard laughed, lifted the boy into his arms, and held him with a warmth that cut Amara to the bone. His hand lingered too long, his smile softened in a way it never did with her. Amara's hand slipped. Champagne spilled over her skin. She stood frozen, watching, while Victoria leaned in with her cold smile and asked, "Darling, are you quite all right? You look pale." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Memories of every child she had seen in their circle swirled through her mind, eyes, smiles, mannerisms. And suddenly she couldn't stop seeing Richard in all of them. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday morning. At the clinic on Harley Street, the receptionist handed her a folder. Amara flipped it open absently, and the air seemed to disappear from her lungs. It wasn't her name on the cover, it was Richard's, and inside, stamped in black ink, "Confidential genetic testing. Paternal matches confirmed. 6 minors." Her hands shook so badly the papers slipped from her grasp, scattering across the white floor. She saw the words again and again, her eyes blurring. "Paternal matches. 6 children." The receptionist gasped, bent to gather the pages. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Withmore. Wrong file, please." But Amara was already walking out. She didn't hear the rest. She didn't feel the cold. She drove home with numb fingers gripping the wheel, her body trembling with every red light. When she burst into Richard's study, he was exactly as always, sitting before the fire, whiskey glass in hand, stock markets flickering across the giant screen. Calm, untouched. Amara threw the folder onto his desk. "Tell me it isn't true." Richard didn't look up. "Lower your voice." Her chest heaved. "Those children, Victoria's, Claudia's, Anna's, they are yours. Tell me it's not true." Finally he turned. His eyes were cool, detached, like glass. "I told you not to burden yourself with this, Amara." Her voice cracked. "Burden? You watched me stab myself with needles. You watched me cry every month. You let me waste away while you—" "I needed heirs," Richard interrupted, calm as ever. He sipped his drink, the ice clinking softly. "And you gave me something else. Dignity, grace, the face I needed beside me. That was your role. You played it beautifully." Her knees weakened. She grabbed the edge of his desk, pearls trembling against her chest. "You monster." But Richard only leaned back, his voice smooth, controlled. "Don't be dramatic. You have everything a woman could want. Diamonds, houses, respect. Don't throw it away for sentiment." Amara did not sleep that night. She sat upright on the edge of the bed, still wearing her pearl earrings, staring at the curtains, swaying gently in the night breeze. The chandelier above caught the moonlight, scattering silver shards across the walls. But Amara felt none of it. Her stomach ached where she had injected herself for months, bruises hidden beneath her silk gown. Every sound in the mansion became unbearable. The tick of the grandfather clock, the faint hum of the heater. Even Richard's slow, even breathing beside her. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tear at the walls and let the whole world see what he had done. But when morning came, she wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, powdered her swollen eyes, and went to brunch with the women she still called friends. The Mayfair hotel dining room smelled of coffee and butter, sunlight pouring across polished tables. Claudia, Victoria, and Anna were already seated, their diamonds flashing, their voices carrying bright laughter. Their children played quietly in the corner, watched by uniformed nannies. Amara stood there for a moment, her body stiff, her heart pounding. She forced herself forward. "Good morning, darling," Victoria said smoothly, adjusting her hat. "You look tired. Rough night?" Amara's lips trembled, but she kept her chin high. "How long?" she asked quietly. The laughter died. The women glanced at one another. Claudia cleared her throat, reaching for her glass. "How long? What, dear?" Amara's voice cracked. "How long have you lied to me? How long have you given him your wombs while smiling in my face?" The silence was sharp, like a knife drawn across glass. The children's soft giggles in the corner seemed cruel, echoing. Victoria set her glass down with care. She leaned forward, her painted lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Darling, you knew how badly Richard wanted children. We only helped." Claudia tilted her head, her blonde curls brushing her shoulders. "And besides," she added sweetly, "they needed a mother figure. You were perfect for that, always so composed. Always so childless." Anna chuckled under her breath, tapping her spoon against her saucer. The blood drained from Amara's face. She gripped the edge of the table until her nails dug into the linen. Her chest rose and fell too quickly, her pearls pressing into her skin like shackles. Victoria reached out and touched her hand lightly, almost pitying. Don't look so betrayed, Amara. You still have your place. You are his wife. The world respects you. No one needs to know the details. Their laughter returned, light and sharp, echoing through the high-ceilinged dining room. Amara stood so abruptly her chair toppled back with a crash. Heads turned. Waiters froze. She could not breathe. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking on the marble floor, her vision blurring with tears. The doorman rushed to open the glass doors for her, bowing low, but she barely saw him. The winter air struck her face like a slap. She did not take the chauffeur's hand when he opened the car door. She climbed in herself, her body rigid, her fists clenched in her lap as the city blurred past the tinted windows. When she reached the Kensington mansion, she went straight upstairs, stripping off her shawl, her pearls, her gloves. One by one she tore them off, dropping them to the floor like dead skin. In her dressing room she faced the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, swollen eyes, skin puffy from hormones, shoulders sagging beneath the weight of years. For the first time she did not see poise. She did not see grace. She saw a woman broken, discarded, mocked. Her hand touched the faint bruises on her stomach where the needles had pierced her. All those mornings, all that pain, for nothing. She pressed both hands against the glass of the mirror as if she could hold herself up by force. But the sob broke free anyway, tearing out of her chest, raw and shuddering. It echoed through the empty house. Downstairs, Richard's laughter drifted faintly from the study. He was on a call, his voice smooth, confident, untouched. Amara slid down the mirror to the carpet, her silk gown pooling around her, tears streaking down her face. For the first time in years, she did not try to hold her composure. She let herself fall apart. Amara wiped her tears. Something else began to rise within her. Rage. Being a victim could break you, but rage could keep you alive, keep you moving. The next morning, a package was quietly delivered to several of London's wealthiest townhouses. Slim brown envelopes, no return address. Inside each, DNA results. Cold, clinical documents proving that the children those wives cherished, the heirs they thought they had given, were not fathered by their husbands. They belonged to Richard. By evening, the city's high society was in flames. Husbands stormed out of mansions, wives screamed in gilded halls, children were dragged into cars as if their innocence was an infection. What had once been whispers about Amara now turned into a wildfire, consuming everyone. In a private club, Richard's phone buzzed non-stop. He ignored the calls until one message came through, a picture of the DNA report laid beside Amara's smiling face, the caption beneath it. "You tried to humiliate me. Now watch the world turn against you." Richard's glass of whiskey slipped from his hand and shattered. For the first time in years, the billionaire looked afraid. But Amara was only getting started. The once polite, calm and poised woman was gone, replaced by someone colder, sharper, a woman who always seemed one step ahead of everyone around her. 2 weeks later, the courtroom brimmed with reporters. Richard arrived in his tailored navy suit, jaw clenched, flanked by his battery of lawyers. Across the aisle, Amara sat calm, a silk scarf draped around her shoulders. Richard's lawyers pounced first. "Your Honor," one began smoothly, "our client's wife has not only publicly defamed him, but recklessly endangered the reputations of innocent families. We submit she is mentally unstable and unfit to be entrusted with any portion of Mr. Withmore's estate." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Reporters scribbled like mad. Amara lifted her chin, her face unreadable. This was Richard's game. Paint her as unhinged, erase her dignity, strip her of everything. But when her turn came, her lawyer slid a sealed envelope across the judge's bench. "Your Honor," Amara's lawyer said, his voice cool. "Before this court even thinks of silencing my client, we ask that you review this medical documentation." He set the file on the bench. The DNA test results. The truth was undeniable. Richard Withmore had not only betrayed his wife over and over, but had fathered 6 children within their very community. 6 children. And who knew how many more bore his face, wandering the world unaware that their father was Richard Withmore? Richard leaned back in his seat, lips curling into a cruel smile. "Not my fault," he said coldly. "I am a powerful man in this society. To protect that power, I needed heirs." His eyes flicked toward Amara, his voice turning to venom. "Not my fault she couldn't give me children all these years." Gasps rippled through the courtroom, but Amara heard nothing. Her vision blurred, the words slicing deeper than any blade. Her knees buckled, and before she could stop herself, she collapsed against her lawyer's shoulder, her body trembling with silent despair. Amara was rushed to the hospital, her body still trembling from the courtroom chaos. When the doctor delivered the news, it felt unreal. "You're pregnant," he said. She laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound that echoed off the sterile walls. "This is a joke, right?" But the doctor wasn't laughing. How did this happen?" she whispered, panic and disbelief warring inside her. "It's a miracle, Mrs. Withmore," he said softly. "We tested 3 times. The results are conclusive." Amara's laughter faded, replaced by wide-eyed shock. She pressed her hands to her stomach, as if to make sure it was real. Tears welled up, then spilled freely, streaming down her cheeks. Joy, fear, and hope collided in her chest. "But we need to keep you overnight for monitoring," the doctor added gently. "Your blood pressure is slightly raised." Amara barely heard him. Her mind was elsewhere, on the tiny life growing inside her, a life no one could take away. That night she laid on the hospital bed alone. Richard didn't visit, nor did he send flowers, not even a message from one of his boys. That sting of betrayal cut deeper than any wound. She pressed a trembling hand to her belly, letting the warmth of her baby soothe the hurt. She straightened her shoulders, drawing strength from a place she hadn't known she had. For the first time in months, she smiled through her tears. She would be strong. She would protect her child. And no one, not Richard, not anyone, would ever make her feel powerless again. To keep her pregnancy safe, the next court hearing was held over video conference. Amara Withmore sat in her living room, hands resting protectively on her belly, while her lawyers stood in the courtroom. Richard sat at the opposite table, his jaw tight, flanked by his legal team. Richard's lawyers tried every angle to argue why Amara should not be given half of his estate, questioning her role in the company, belittling her contributions, painting her as nothing more than the wife who enjoyed the luxuries. Then came the bombshell. "Your Honor," Amara's lawyer said, voice steady but ringing with authority, "my client is pregnant." The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. Faces turned, whispers spread like wildfire. A child. After all these years, Amara Withmore was carrying a child. Richard's lips curled into a sneer. "Are you sure she's pregnant?" he said coldly, and not pretending, trying to sway the court's judgment in her favor. Her lawyers calmly provided the medical evidence. Ultrasounds, reports signed by specialists. Undeniable proof. But Richard wasn't finished. He leaned forward, his voice slicing through the courtroom. And after so many years, how do we even know the child is mine? The words stung Amara like venom. Even through the screen, her hand trembled as she pressed it against her belly. The judge ordered that a DNA test be carried out once the pregnancy reached 19 weeks. But Amara's lawyers objected. Your Honor, such a procedure carries a significant risk of miscarriage. After so many years of waiting, Mrs. Withmore cannot gamble with the life of her child. Amara's voice, though faint, cut through the silence. A DNA test can be done after birth. If it confirms the child is Richard Withmore's, then I ask this court to name him, or her, the true heir. Richard doubled down, throwing insults like daggers. She's lying. She's desperate. A barren woman doesn't suddenly become a mother overnight. The judge had to bang the gavel repeatedly to silence the uproar. A DNA test will be performed when the child is born. That evening, Amara sat on the balcony of the Kensington mansion. Richard stormed in. You think faking a pregnancy would change anything? He demanded. Amara remained silent. That seemed to infuriate him further. Say something, woman! You think you're smart? I could easily crush you, he spat. But Amara didn't move. Richard studied her closely, his breath hitching when he realized the truth. He rushed her to the hospital. Mr. Withmore, your wife's blood pressure keeps spiking. This pregnancy is high risk. She needs bed rest and must avoid any form of stress, the doctor said. Richard nodded, understanding dawning on him. His face softened as he watched Amara sleeping peacefully on the hospital bed. After her discharge, Amara ordered the staff to pack her belongings. Richard tried to persuade her to stay. Remember what the doctor said. You have everything you need here. You don't have to lift a finger. But Amara moved into a quiet cottage on the outskirts of town, a place filled with gardens and sunlight, far from the toxic whispers of society and the courtroom battles. She read, she prayed, she dreamt, and with each passing month she grew stronger, her resolve hardening. When the time came, Amara gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, healthy, strong, and perfect. The court reconvened, and the evidence was undeniable. The DNA confirmed Richard was the father. The judge ruled in favor of the twins, declaring them the rightful heirs to the Withmore fortune. Amara, too, was awarded half of the estate, recognized for her years of financial and emotional contribution, the silent sacrifices that had built Richard's empire from the ground up. The case was over. Justice was hers. But one evening, not long after the ruling, Richard appeared at her cottage. He stood at the doorway, looking smaller than the man she once knew. I was a fool, he said quietly. I should have treated you better. Please forgive me. Amara said nothing at first. She simply held her babies closer. Forgiveness did not come easy, not after years of betrayal and humiliation. But when Richard insisted that his heirs needed to be raised in the Withmore mansion, Amara agreed, not for him, but for them. But she would not allow strangers raise her children. So she returned to the mansion, carrying her twins into the world of power and wealth she had once been denied. Richard turned out to be a surprisingly devoted father, gentle, protective, doting on the twins as if trying to make up for lost time. He might not have been the best husband, but the way he showed up for his children made her happy. And Amara, she had changed forever. No longer the quiet, obedient wife. She had become something else entirely, strong, resilient, and untouchable, because she knew now that diamonds, even when thrown into the mud, never lose their shine.